Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you build trust. Every time you do the hard thing because your future self is worth it, you build self-respect. That's a power no one can take from you. So a line I like to say is self-respect is the silent engine behind a powerful life.
Welcome to the Waste No Day podcast, a podcast specifically for and about the home services industry as it relates to plumbing, heating, air conditioning, and electrical. More than a podcast, Waste No Day is a credo, a determination, a mindset. It is a never-ending discipline. It is a refuse to lose pursuit. It is a wake-up call every morning to waste no day. Now here's your hosts, Brian Burton and Nate Minnick.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Waste No Day podcast. Your host, Nate Minnick, hanging with you. I am the co-host from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. My brother from another mother, Brian Burton, general manager of the Benjamin Franklin Plumbing in Phoenix, and your faithful mediators for great conversation. Welcome to the show here. We're looking to have a great guest on today as we bring back a favorite. Laura Kelly, co-founder of Clover, is going to be joining us today, and she's going to be talking about the 7 concepts that really drive growth in finances, personal, career, all over the place. But it's going to be dialed in around making you a better person. And that is going to be a good conversation and one that hits close to home, as we always try to model that at the Waste No Day podcast. And we're super excited to bring her back on. She's going to try to keep it clean for us this time, and we're looking forward to a great conversation with her. It's going to be great. But before we do, it's time to open it up with a quote from Brian.
We're going to do it a little bit different today. And that's not the quote. And neither was that. And neither was that.
All right.
Today, I want to talk about one of the most influential personal development books ever written, and the man behind it. It's 1908, and he was just a young, broke reporter. He was given an assignment that would change his life, and eventually millions, I dare say tens of millions of other lives. He was asked to interview Andrew Carnegie, the steel magnate behind Carnegie Steel. He was one of the richest men in the world at the time. But Carnegie had more than just answers. Carnegie had a challenge. He told the young man, if I open the doors to the most successful men in America, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Alexander Graham Bell, Charles Schwab, and dozens more, but you'll have to spend the next 20 years studying them, do you accept? And the young man said, I accept. And for over 2 decades, the man met with and studied 500 of the most successful people in the world, looking for patterns. He wanted to know what separated the truly wealthy, fulfilled, and successful from everyone else. And he found it wasn't just intelligence, luck, or connections. It was mindset, belief, persistence, definite purpose, a burning desire backed by faith and action. That research became his life's work. And in 1937, at the height of the Great Depression, he published that book. A book that teaches that wealth begins not in your wallet, but in your mind. It's not just about money. It's about clarity of purpose, belief in yourself, and the refusal to give up. That book was Think and Grow Rich. And that young reporter turned author was Napoleon Hill. And now I'm going to read a long quote from that book. What if I told you that the doubt living in your mind isn't yours? That it wasn't born with you, that it was installed? Not by truth, not by evidence, but by repetition, by years of hearing what couldn't be. Done of seeing others settle, of watching powerful men shrink to fit into small cages built by fear. What if I told you that every hesitation you've carried, every quiet voice that told you to wait, to hold back, to question your own strength, was never yours to begin with? It was borrowed, programmed, repeated, but not born. Because you, my friend, you were made not to question yourself. You were made to build. You were made to rise. You were made to win. Not eventually, not someday, not when everything lines up perfectly, but now. Napoleon Hill.
Yeah, let's go run through a wall, brother.
You know what I'm saying? I'm reading that book again, if you couldn't tell. Just fascinated with it. Constantly just, I have the audio book going. I'm at the gym or wherever I'm at with the audiobook going. But now when I'm listening to the audiobook, I turn the transcription on Audible, because you can just kind of watch the words play as they're reading. Oh yeah, this feature's killing it. I'm not looking most of the time, but when I want to, right? And now I can just screenshot that and put it in my phone instead of like going in and typing it all out. And all I do the entire time I'm listening is like screenshot, send it to my wife. Screenshot, send it to my son. Send it to the T. Like, it's all I do. Everybody's so sick of getting these transcription pictures from me, And then better yet, screenshot, send it to myself, and then read it on the Waste No Day podcast. Thank you.
Yeah. What a great way to start this, Brian. And as we think about that quote, it's going to tie into what we're talking about today. Because so much of what Laura does and her husband Josh at Clover, and what she's going to bring in terms of content today, is about re-examining a lot of the beliefs and the patterns, the decisions, choices, tapes playing in our head that cause us to be who we are. And that's not always who we were meant to be, nor is it always who we can have the potential to be. And I know Laura's going to bring some good content today relevant to that area.
Man, you know who was, the Clover Mastermind, my favorite thing that Clover does. And we're members of their Catapult program. And then we just got done with the Lieutenant Colonel Scott Mann leadership mastermind that was like 6 months long, I believe. We put myself and our two managers through it. So I'm all things Clover for sure. But the mastermind, it's just 3 days and really always in a cool place at a really nice hotel, and they'll rent out like a mansion where you go have the masterminds at. They have speakers for every different aspect of life, right? So Dr. J, who's on the show here a few weeks ago, he's one of the speakers. And then, you know who they had at the last one? I think I sent you a pic.
Who they got?
Carlos Mendez.
Oh, yeah.
He's one of Jocko Willink's snipers from Ramadi. And we had him on the show. It had to be a couple years ago now, right?
Yes.
But I never met him in person, but he's a leadership trainer. He's a hedge fund manager or something like that. Now he's telling me he's in finance and just killing the game, but he's a Navy SEAL sniper and really dug in on leadership and some of the echelon front principles that Jocko teaches, and got to hang out with him a little bit. But it's always tremendous value at these things. And I really wanted to do an episode with Laura or Josh or both right after the mastermind, because I was just buzzing with the changes we were going to get to implement and just how much better everything's going to run. And we didn't do it. And I was kind of bummed that it's taken some months now. What was that? April? It was a little over 2 months ago, but still, like, we're implementing the things we learned from the masterminds just like we did last year. And there's just such clutch things to implement into your business. So a lot of them have come up here, but there's nothing like going to one of these masterminds. And I'm sure we'll take a minute to talk about that.
Absolutely, Brian. And before we do so, it's time for us to highlight one of the special people who's taken the time to talk about this show and how it has been perhaps a mastermind in their life. Brian, who are we highlighting today?
Amazing. 5 stars. And then after the 5-star rating, 10 stars.
Wow.
Yeah, he put that in the review. Yes. So it's like writing 2 reviews. This podcast can be life-changing for anyone who is willing to put in the work and sift through the trove of knowledge in each episode. You can pay thousands of dollars to trainers and companies and still not get half as much value as this podcast offers. Take the time and invest in yourself with some sweat equity, and you will not regret it. Brian and Nate have given us the keys to the life we want. It's up to us to walk through the door.
Man, put this guy up on the quote wall.
You know what I'm saying? Like, can you start doing commercials for it? I'm going to read the name here, buddy. Well, you know how Mach 1, how do you spell Mach?
M-A-C-H?
Yeah, except this is with an F. Fach 1. Not one, sorry, face. F-A-C-H, face.
Wow.
Coincidentally, we have a lady coming on with a thick Irish accent who says F-A-W-K quite often.
We'll try to keep it clean today. Okay.
Yeah, it's just word to the wise that maybe one or two slip through on an episode with Laura Kelly. So you might want to earmuff the kiddos on this one.
Well, we appreciate the review, my man. And what a nice way to start off the episode.
Yep. And before we do start off the episode, I love what he ended there with. Take the time and invest in yourself with some sweat equity, and you will not regret it. Brian and Nate have given us the keys to the life we want. It's up to us to walk through the door. That door has a sign on it that says blue collar closer. I'm not kidding. Like the reviews that people post in there of the changes that have happened with their presentations, with their pay, with their lives, and then the messages they send to us thanking us for putting this group together. I want to do something where like make a reel out of the reviews where they just play for 90 seconds of the screenshots of people saying what it's done for them, but it just feels so self-absorbed. Like, can't someone else do it and then we just never see it? Like the self-promotion thing is just it's such a bummer. It really is. But it is what it is, man. It's really good content in there. It's a massive group worldwide. There's 4 countries in there right now of people who are just getting after it nonstop and pushing each other and holding each other accountable. And it's our sales process that we have trained multi-million-dollar a year technicians with, broken down into short, like 5-minute videos of just each part of the process. And then there's role play videos. And then there's hours and hours of the top leaders and trainers in the home service industry and the top selling technicians ever in video form training in the Wiser Wednesday section, available 24/7 to blue collar closer members. And as this records, that is less than $50 a week. If you don't think joining that group and getting our training will make you more than $50 a week, this must be your first time listening to Waste No Day. But at the end of this episode, you will believe it. So go to bluecollarcloser.com. There should be a link in the show notes, or shoot us an email, service@wastenoday.net. And we'll get you, we'll at least get you the info page so you can see what it's all about, right? Also, Wiser Wednesday, every Wednesday morning, 7 a.m. Arizona time, which right now is 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. We got live trainers on there every Wednesday morning for free. Just jump on. All you got to do is shoot us an email at service@wastenoday.net, and we'll add your email to the calendar invite. What else we got, buddy? We got another freaking boot camp coming November 2nd and 3rd in Fort Lauderdale, right on the beach. This one's going to be awesome because I've always wanted it to be on a beach, finally. So hit us up. Same. Either go to wastenoday.com or just shoot us an email, service@wastenoday.net. Any questions you have, anything you want on the show, people jump on there and recommend guests, thank us for the show, tell me Nate sucks. I don't really send all those to them, but gosh, so many. There's so many of that one. Yeah, it's brutal. I got to sift through those.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, today's content is not going to be something you're going to have to sift through at all. It's going to hit hard and it's going to hit home. And we are very honored to bring back onto the show and put in your passenger seat, Laura Kelly. Our guest today is Laura Kelly. She is the co-founder of Clover and has consulted one-on-one with billion-dollar businesses and CEOs. She has toured the country with a venture capitalist investment group and has run over 30 events in 8 months for business owners and investment hunters across the country. She's also won awards for her theory developed for business owners to get the most out of their employees. Laura majored in business psychology and optimal human performance, where she graduated valedictorian. She was offered a funded PhD at Trinity College Dublin, one of the world's top universities. Laura has spoken throughout Ireland to CEOs and other professionals about optimal performance in the workplace and won awards for her theory developed for business owners to get the most out of their employees. Laura has consulted global brands like Dell, Eli Lilly, Royal College of Surgeons, and CPL Jobs. She has also run events for leading business psychologists in Ireland and headed up sponsorships relationships with Google. Laura has helped hundreds of contractors achieve 30% more growth and profitability year over year through developing Clover's contractor education programs. And Laura was awarded one of the top 50 women leaders in Arizona for 2022 and continues to drive impact and results to those she works with. She's also going to try to keep it clean today. We're going to see if we can set a new record for least amount of F words said in a single episode with Laura. Welcome here.
Hey guys, thank you for having me. Yes, I will not be dropping one F-bomb. Not one.
It'll be FAWK, so it's actually not a swear word.
So it doesn't count, so I can curse? Yes. Oh, joking. All right, you guys. Well, I'm stoked to be here. Thank you. Like, you guys clearly have a freaking awesome following. Anytime I've been on this, it's generated like wonderful, insightful, and stimulating conversations for me. So it's an honor to be back. What this all is about, guys, is most people are chasing growth in just one area of life. Maybe they're making more money, but they're burnt out, or they're growing emotionally, but they're still stuck professionally. Real transformation happens when you expand personally, professionally, and financially. So the 7 truths that I'm going to share with you tonight have helped. At this point, I have taken hundreds of leaders through this whole concept of expanding personally, professionally, and financially. And what I found is when I go about expanding them personally and professionally and financially, they end up experiencing much larger fulfillment. And I truly believe that success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. So what I'm going to give you today is actionable secrets that facilitate you experiencing exceptional growth personally, professionally, and financially, and how growing one can cause the others to expand as well. Before I kind of get started, do you guys want to ask me anything specific, or you want me to just start knocking these bad boys out?
Well, it's been a while since we've had you on, Laura. And so some of our listeners might not actually be as familiar with you, which you're making quite a name for yourself with Clover and your husband as well. It was actually back in October of 2023. You talked about 7 secrets of explosive growth. We did a 2-parter with you, which was really exciting. And we're glad to have you back on. But for listeners who are not familiar with you, or it's been a little bit since they've listened to those episodes, why don't you give us the nickel tour on who you are and what you're doing?
Yeah. So name Laura Kelly, one of the founders and owners at Clover. So what Clover does is we help people in the home service space expand personally, professionally, and financially. How we do that is we various programs that essentially remove the guessing from one's growth. We do that via our best practice program, via our mastermind, via our 3 promises program. We have a media buying side to our business. And what makes me feel, I guess, proud of what we do and why we do it is our background is proven. So Josh and his dad grew Parker and Sons, the family company, from 6.5 to 100 million. I had nothing to do with that. Around the time they were doing that, I was working with business owners to help them expand personally, professionally, and financially. But I had no background in the home service industry per se. My dad is an electrician, so is my brother, but I hadn't grown a home service business. But after they sold to the Wrench Group, there was this gap where there was a lot of people asking Josh and Paul, like, hey, how did you get to over this $100 million mark with such a low market share? They only had 7% market share, and it was all one market, all grown like organically. So we started Clover, and what I brought to the table was my background is in my undergrad is psychology, my master's is in business psychology, and I really get a kick out of seeing people expand. And I knew that although I may not have the home service technical knowledge, if you gave me a human, I could expand them and combine that with Josh's background in growing successful home service companies, we could really do something cool here. So we're doing this now for like 7.5 years. We've hundreds of members. We've had some outstanding results I'm wildly proud of. But I was kind of curious, okay, if I've been able to help people across various different disciplines, like in the tech space, in the home service space, in the the garage door space, the pest control space. Could I grow my own home service company? So in the last 2 years, we now own a part of 5 different home service companies. So what I believe makes us different is that Josh and Paul did it, but we're still doing it. So any best practice that we release to anyone, like what you're going to hear from me today, we're actively using them in our own companies, and only then do we release them. So they were practiced in Parker and Sons. Some of the stuff is outdated, so we drop it and we're forced to evolve. Otherwise, our companies don't evolve. And it forces us to also remain fresh for our members. And I freaking love that, because I know that what we're giving, we know that, like, if someone gives me a thing to roll out and I'm not going to get like a guaranteed outcome at the end of it because the thing is outdated, that's going to drive me crazy. I don't have that time, so I don't want to sue that upon others. So I love that what we do is actively working in the field right now. Some of it once worked and still works, some didn't, and we have to tweak and evolve so our companies continue to, and only then do we release it to our members. So that's what made me really feel like I have a home in this industry, is because I know we're actively contributing to it in a like raw way. Sometimes we're figuring things right out there with our members, but we're transparent about what we know works, and we release that. And then something that is in the pipe recently is the Three Promises program. And a lot of what I'm going to share with you today is I've coached some of the most successful leaders in our industry and outside of our industry, and it's all data backed. So I cannot just think I do believe I have a gift for expanding people, but I also like to keep my ego in check and not just think I'm shit hot, try and have data to assure that I'm actually getting results. So I measure, before I work with any leader, I measure all categories of their life ahead of time. Like, how are they doing professionally, financially, emotionally, spiritually, physically? I rate everything, and then I take them through a 90-day program. And after the 90 days, I rate them again and see how much they've expanded. And it's always significant, which makes me realize I do get results. And I could doubt myself. So I like having that tangible, like, shit, their life is really evolving and changing. So what I'm going to share with you all today are the 7 things that are really potent in allowing me help a lot of people. And some of them you may have never heard, some of them you may have. And I'm choosing these 7 because I've seen the wild change it's facilitated for some of the leaders I work with and for myself. Anything I'm sharing with you here, I'm actively using and will probably need to always use it in order to evolve and remain like the best version of Laura.
Yeah, and I appreciate that so much, Laura. And it's so exciting to have you give that context, because we've all probably come across some business consultants or speakers who have switched from actively using to like coaching, and then it's great for a while, but then you kind of drift away from reality and current status, and you still have really good principles and really good methodologies and all that stuff, but it's not necessarily as cutting edge as it used to be.
Right.
And so I appreciate the fact that you and Josh have re-engaged into the industry and are doing that real life testing to bring credible features and benefits to your programs as well as to our listeners today. And we're excited to jump into this. And before we do that, just want to call out the caveat here. While Laura has certainly participated in very large businesses, and you might think, oh, this is more going to be for owners, it's not. This is going to be for every single person listening, no matter what position you are in. We are all looking to grow. That is part of our Waste No Day motto here, is continuing to find that next level for yourselves. And so let's jump into this, Laura. As you think about this triple threat and the personally, professionally, and financially, which one do you find is typically the one that most people get tripped up on?
Yeah. Great question. And to allude to your comment on like who this applies to, the leaders that I do this with is identified by the owner, and sometimes they're tech, sometimes they're CSRs, sometimes they're the sales manager, sometimes they're the install manager, sometimes they're the GM. This concept applies to everybody. When our personal life is doing better, we tend to show up better professionally. When we have financial safety, we tend to be able to engage more in personal endeavors because we have the financial freedom to do so. So one area impacts the other.
That's a hot take, Laura, because well, Nate and I, and I'm sure you have heard many times, and many people listening have heard man, he's got to go have some kids. He's got to go get into debt. He needs to go buy a house and some cars so he gets motivated. And it's like, I've seen the results of that, and it's not what you think it's going to be.
Right.
But you get someone who has a financial literacy, a safety net, some just not necessarily comfort, but you could say comfort, but just feels secure financially, and more importantly, has a spouse or a family at home that feels secure financially. And that person is going to perform like he or she has never performed.
It's 100% true. So anytime I get on a call with a person that I'm working with and they're having like crap's hitting the fan, me trying to optimize that individual when they're not experiencing safety is a waste of bloody time. So like if you don't know if your bills are going to get paid, if you don't know if you're going to go home and your spouse is going to eat the head off you, if you don't know if you're going to go into work and your boss is going to be a total piece of crap to you, you're not experiencing psychological
You can say Nate.
safety. Okay, yeah, Nate, ass.
A little throwback to our old episode there.
If a person's not experiencing psychological safety, they can't optimize. So there's this whole, a lot of people's probably heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Your basic needs have got to be met in order for one to thrive, you need to have like your basic human needs met. So I believe you almost need to have a relatively stable foundation in all of them in order to be able to thrive in any of them. Like if you're broke, you can't engage in, it's very hard to be unstressed at work, even though you're trying to be a good dad or mom. If you're professionally like just constantly failing or put under such undue pressure, you might have all this money, but what is it, is it worth it? Is it worth all the stress? So what I do is identify where a person lays in each of those categories, find out what their baseline is, and grow their baseline. It's not necessarily one, they all kind of work together. And each principle that I'm going to share today affect all of them, which I think is kind of efficient and I like.
Well, let's jump into it, Laura. Where are we going to start?
Yeah. So the first one is relatively basic, but just it's something that I'll never be able to stop practicing. And I think most high performers will continue to have to practice. And this is what I get people more comfortable doing when I work with them, is to do the thing scared. So growth isn't about waiting to feel ready. It's about doing the thing even when you don't. Like confidence isn't the starting line. I say that to people. Courage is. Confidence comes afterward. So the line that I like to say to people is every time you do the hard thing while scared, you build evidence. You start believing I'm someone I can count on. So feeling the fear and doing it anyway, when you feel the fear, you just got to bloody embrace the fact that that's probably never going to go away, but you can become an individual that experiences the fear and does the thing anyway, or allows fear dictate your whole entire life. And as a result, you'll probably just live small.
So you're saying that courage is the starting line rather than confidence. And give us some practical examples of how you see that played out. And remember, the majority of our audience is probably driving to a call right now, right? And we do have owners and managers that listen, but talk to us through some practical examples, maybe even just on a personal level, like not even related to the job necessarily, about where do we deploy this and, where does this courage come from? Do we just have to fabricate it out of thin air?
Yeah, great question. And it applies in so many ways. So like, life is about relationships, engaging in relationships. And the most fulfilling form of relationships is when you can have authentic conversations and you have the courage to say the thing you're probably afraid to say, so that you can engage in relationships in an authentic way. So this concept could apply to your spouse is doing something that you're just making peace with, but it really throws you out of alignment, and having the courage to be able to appropriately bring that up regardless of fear is important. Yes, you might not like their reaction, but you're at least not securing a reality for yourself forever that you certainly don't like. And the same becomes true with making an offer or going for the close in a house. Yes, it might seem scary, but the alternative is you remain stuck in your current position and you never evolve and grow. So that's the trade-off. Yes, having courage and doing the thing is scary and hard, but living in a reality that you just don't like, I believe, is harder. So you just have to, adopt that, choose what reality you're willing to, endure, a reality that's hard and forced upon you, or a reality that you're choosing to create yourself by being bloody brave. And as a result, you're modeling to those that you love, whether that's your kids, your team, that being brave is the way to live an authentic life versus allowing others dictate how you should live by choosing to be driven by fear. Fear will always be there.
I think the biggest challenge is like, all right, I'm gonna brave my way through this and muster up some courage. And Jocko Willink was talking about the antidote for fear is movement.
100%.
It's action. It's just like, don't even think about what you're scared of or
100%.
how you're going to unscare yourself. Just start acting on whatever it is.
You know, to allude to the acting thing, something that helps me, because I still get freaking fearful, or sometimes I might get in my head if I have to make a big call. Getting in your body, getting in your physiology helps you get out of your head. So actually doing the thing is action, but honestly also actually action via movement, like physical movement. If you get into your body, you get out of your head. So if you're very terrified to do a thing, going for a walk and getting into your physiology helps you get out of your head and facilitates action becoming easier because you pull yourself out of your head. But yes, action over time. You've all probably heard of the therapy. It's called exposure therapy. You're exposing yourself to the thing that you're fearful of. And when you expose yourself to it enough, you become a little less fearful of it.
Yeah, that's if you're terrified of elevators, they walk you up to about 5 feet from the elevator. You stand there for 10 seconds and then you go away. Yeah. And then you go 5 feet closer. And then the 10th, 12th time you're standing in the elevator, we're not going to let the doors close on you, but now come on out. And then before you know it, you're going up a floor, down a floor. And
100%.
Yeah, that's exposure therapy. And little bits at a time, not the full thing right away, although I'm all for that too. But a little bit at a time, it's very manageable. So as Jocko says, it's like, just take the smallest action you can toward whatever that thing is.
Yes.
And watch how that little action doesn't make you die.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
It's interesting that you bring up the movement concept, Laura. Early in my marriage, we lived in town, and I tell you what, we would often take walks. And there was just something about, no matter whether you're fighting over something or having a disagreement or just getting on the same page, something about a 30-minute walk around town and back to the house. You know, you just kind of aired out some differences. You had space. You worked out some muscles. You know, burned through some calories, and you just got on a different page. And like that was something early in my marriage that I found healthy. But one thing that I want to like push back on you a little bit is like one of the reasons that we get cautious about being quote unquote courageous is that on the flip side of courageous is stupidity, right? Like, you know, for every guy who runs into a burning building and comes out like as the hero, there's also a guy who runs into the burning building and he dies. Like he made a stupid decision out of courage or out of bravery, and it was a bad decision. Like he made a foolish decision because impulse reaction or whatever you want to call it. And you could say the same thing about for every person that, you know, it got finally brave enough to talk to their spouse about that thing that they really needed to work through. They misdelivered on it. And like, while it was a great thing to overcome the hurdle of the trepidation of not wanting to have the conversation, man, they blew it up. And now things are just really bad. So how do we process through the idea of take courage before you get confidence with the fact that, well, the reason I don't have confidence is because I have history of bad courage?
Yeah, there's so much to break down there. It is very easy to stay stuck when you have experienced hurt by taking action in the past. And what I always say to people is, how is now different than then? And typically a lot has changed. They're not the same. So how is now different than this same situation in the past? That is one way. Another way is, for the most part, you know when what you're doing is downright stupid, or what you're doing is what you're doing is just avoiding fear. You typically can tell the difference. And if you're not doing a thing because you believe, and this is where deep self-honesty is fundamental. If you're not doing a thing because you genuinely believe it could have an outcome that wouldn't serve your greatest good, for the most part, if you're willing and able to be honest with yourself, and self-honesty is a huge life hack, you can tell the difference between, am I BSing myself right now, or am I being truly real with myself right now, and knowing the difference? Like, yes, one still has to engage their logical brain. Running into a building that you've perhaps there's no hope of you perhaps surviving in. Yeah, there's a whole host of variables you could talk about there. Like, is your gut just telling you to run? And is that enough data to just run? Maybe, maybe not. That's very kind of, it's very specific to the context. What I would say here is just don't BS yourself. If you're making an excuse for why you shouldn't do a thing, it's such a skill to recognize it for what it is. It's an excuse, and just identify what would be that small little actionable that would push you forward. And also, if you're fearful to have conversations with a spouse or a boss, framing the fear, like letting a person know, hey, what I'm about to tell you, I'm honestly really scared to tell you. I don't know how you're going to react. I'm probably going to say it wrong, but it's eating me up not to say it. So I'm going to give it my best shot. And if I mess up, I am sincerely sorry. I have so much freaking emotion around this right now that I'm probably going to say it wrong. But could I just say it so I can at least be authentic and honest with you? And from that place, I believe we can build something stronger. So being transparent about your uncertainty and the bravery that you're trying to bring to the table right now amid your fear. Please, Brian, go ahead.
I know you don't strike me as the type of person who's going to go back and listen to episodes of podcasts that you're on. So I know you won't hear the introduction and you weren't part of the introduction to this episode, but the quote that we used is so spot on for what we're talking about right now. And the reason I told you I wanted to move in the direction that you denied me and then went in your own direction for the episode, but it's hitting exactly on what we're talking about. So I want to read it. I would say real quick, but it's a fairly long quote, but just bear with me.
Yes.
What if I told you that the doubt living in your mind isn't yours, that it wasn't born with you, that it was installed, not by truth, not by evidence, but by repetition, by years of hearing what couldn't be, done of seeing others settle, of watching powerful men shrink to fit into small cages built by fear? What if I told you that every hesitation you've carried, every quiet voice that told you to wait, to hold back, to question your own strength, was never yours to begin with? It was borrowed, programmed, repeated, but not born. Because you, my friend, you were not made to question yourself. You were made to build. You were made to rise. You were made to win. Not eventually, not someday, not when everything lines up perfectly, but now. Do either of you know that quote or where that quote's from?
No, but it reminds me of something that I don't think I'd be here now talking to you all if I hadn't kind of faced. Tell me where it's from first.
It's from Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill.
So the book I'm referring to came from a classic as well. It's called Cybernetics.
Cybernetics, yeah.
Oh, shit. I was riddled with self-doubt. I can see why you brought it up. I know you and I have had these conversations. I still fight it, but I was riddled with it. And the book Cybernetics alludes to some of the stuff that you read there. And the whole thing is about you're just running on a program that you picked up somewhere along the way, and it isn't yours, but it's becoming part of you only because you're choosing to repeat that thought over and over, or those kind of thoughts. In the book Cybernetics, the whole concept is about this. He's a plastic surgeon, and he has people come into them that think they're super ugly. They've super low self-esteem, and he would go and fix their nose or fix their chin or fix some part that they believed was ugly about them, and they would still be just as depressed and feel just as terrible about themselves. And this plastic surgeon was like, "This is BS. I'm not helping these people at all." So he said he refused to help people until he started to help people self-narrative. And he said so many people chose to not get the surgery because it wasn't they started to see themselves as beautiful or handsome or sexy or charming because their narrative changed, their outward didn't. Or he would go ahead and do the surgery and then they actually felt well. So many people, he would do the surgery and they still felt terrible because it wasn't the physical thing. It was the destructive narrative that you were continually allowing run around in your head, which will chip away at you can't grow self-esteem. You can't not have self-doubt if all you're doing is berating the heck out of yourself. And I always say to people, if you knew your child was talking to themselves how you talk to yourself, that would just eat you up from the insides out, yet you do it to yourself every day.
That reminds me of Jordan Peterson's quote, "If only we could treat ourselves like another person that we care for."
Yeah. If we want that for our children and we want that for our team, we've got to model the way. We cannot eat ourselves up. We will never amount to, it goes back to what I said at the start, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. You will never experience fulfillment if you talk like absolute garbage to yourself. You just won't. Which takes me to step 2, unless we want to elaborate further on this, is it's about 6 human needs. We all have 6 human needs, and it's certainty, uncertainty, significance, growth, contribution, and love. we all have different ways of going about meeting our human needs. And there's conducive ones that lead to fulfillment and growth, and there's destructive ones. And there's 4 stages. Stage 1, 2, 3, and 4. Stage 1 is where we all want to ideally be. And it's the thing that we're supposed to do feels good, is good for us, and is good for others, is good for other people. The second stage is it doesn't feel good, but it's good for you and good for others. The third thing is it does feel good, but it's not good for you and it's not good for others. The fourth thing is it doesn't feel good, it isn't good for you, and it isn't good for others. The goal of life, and what I end up accomplishing with the people I work with, is to be okay with stage 2, but to get you to stage 1. But most of the world live in stage 3. They do things that feel good, but they're not good for you and not good for others. It's why people drink. It's why people excessively smoke. And when people typically go on a path of working out, it doesn't flip and feel good for the most part, but it's good for you and good for others. And when you really transform and can experience fulfillment, it's when you take stage 2 things and make them a stage 1 thing. So how can you take something that is really good for you, good for others, but doesn't feel good, and have it become a stage 1 thing? So most people live in path 3, where it feels good now, but it's costing them later. So my encouragement to any listener is, what is something you engage in that feels good now, but it's going to cost you later? And I'm Irish. I like to drink a lot, but I know I can't, because I know what that costs me long term.
Do you have anything that you do personally?
If I allowed myself, it would be drink, but I don't, for sure. I purposely don't, because I know I could fall into that trap.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a rule with myself where now I only drink once a month, because I used to find myself, I've experienced what being around alcoholics can look like. So I don't allow myself get drunk that often, but I definitely used drink to reduce stress. And I could see the kind of pain that would cause long term. Something I definitely feel. Go ahead.
If I can play devil's advocate for 1 second.
Please.
I've been to 2 Clover masterminds, one in New Orleans, one in Nashville.
Yeah.
Awesome. The most awesome time. We'll go every year, flat out. The one where Laura and Josh Kelly drink, I like that one a lot more than the one where Laura and Josh Kelly were on 75 hard.
I know.
Make that the once a month that you guys actually drink.
Isn't that funny? But we got other feedback, and it is a pickle because, drinking all the time is destructive.
Yeah.
But it's funny you say that. Somebody else gave me feedback that they didn't like that there was drinking there.
Was it Josh?
No.
I'm kidding.
No, but someone did. Someone did
really?
give that, 'cause everybody that comes, they say they expand massively, but I think they felt conflicted that one person felt conflicted that there was so much drink available, because then they fell into drinking a lot. You never drank, so you just got to experience the fun of us both times.
Yeah, but I didn't. But nobody got drunk. So
yeah, that's true.
And that makes it so cool that everybody's just, because I'm like a guy who's had 4 drinks 24/7, right? I'm talking to everybody. I have no issues, but a lot of people are pretty stuffy in a situation like that. At least, about a couple hours into the first day, till we all sit in chairs across from each other with the list of questions, and that kind of breaks things down. But when everybody had a couple drinks, it was a lot easier to get to know everybody, and people really shared, I felt like, a little bit more our honest struggles and the things that were really holding us back in life and business. And it made it much easier to dig and find answers.
Yeah, it is interesting. But Josh has made a pact with himself that he won't drink. He's not going to drink until he gets his 6-pack. So I think October Mastermind, he won't be drinking either, but I probably will. It'll be my one day a month. Because apparently I'm more fun. According to Brian, I'm more fun when I drink.
How many does he have now? Does he have 2 yet, or?
He did it. We both did a Dex on Friday, and it was kind of depressing. But no, but he's ripped. I wouldn't say he's got a 6-pack yet, but he's looking very muscular. So I don't know. I think he'll be the rest of the year before he gets there.
He's always pretty muscular.
Yeah.
Nate just texted me. He's a smoke show.
He's a smoke show. I'll tell him that. I'll tell him that. But yeah, it is. It's and that's something we're going to get to, is putting yourself around people that really challenge you, make you comfortable freaking being courageous, asking the hard questions, and inspiring you to do things that are more stage 1. So what are some things that you're not everything that feels good is good for you, and not everything good for you feels good, but that's where the growth is. So encouraging you to identify like, okay, what are some of the things in your life that you're using as a vehicle to meet your needs, but they're destructive? And what are the things that you could do more of that will facilitate fulfillment long-term? And typically what I get after the 90 days, when I get people into vehicles that facilitate fulfillment long-term, is every life category shoots up. And that's been exciting to see. So I encourage you to just self-assess. What is facilitating comfort for you now, but it's going to cause you pain long-term? How can you have balance? I like to drink. I really like to drink. It's fun. But my balance is finding that once a month where I can like, and actually, little hack, if you want to jump on this whole once a month thing with me, you can still go on a whirly of a weekend, because you could do end of June, start of July, and you could have a whole great weekend, but it's still once a month.
I already found a cheat code for it.
Yes.
What do you got, Nate? You got one for us?
Go ahead.
What's a vice in Nate's world that is worth it in the moment and then not the time all the way around it?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's what I would qualify as couch time, right? So, you go through your whole day
by yourself.
No, well, yes and no, right? So you go through your whole day, you get to, do the work thing, you come home from work, you're running with the kids, doing all the activities or playing with them or doing all those things. Then it's bedtime, you do the whole bedtime rush, the routine, everything, exhausted. And then you and the missus sit down on the couch. Yes, you're together, but no, you're not. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so you go into the doom scrolling, the Netflix is up and all that stuff. And you check out because like you're tired of being engaged. And it's in those moments that, oh crap, it's bedtime. Well, we should go to bed. And, whatever time has passed that I have not spent engaged with my marriage, my best friend, that we've not talked about our day in any meaningful way or about our future plans or all those types of things. And so like, it's this difficult thing because you're in this moment where you're like, I just need to check out. I'm tired of being engaged. I need to rest for a little bit. And then you kind of just pattern stick in that moment because it's so easy, because everything that you're doing in that moment is addictive by nature, right? The Netflix keeps showing the next show. Facebook keeps showing you the next reel. Like all those things keep going on and you just get caught in that moment and you realize I just sacrificed what really matters to me, my relationship, my marriage, all those things. I just sacrificed that for another stupid video, right?
Yeah. Something you alluded to earlier was your walking, Nate. I feel like so often with couples, and honestly, it can happen with your direct reports and leadership too, is you don't have a system that facilitates you remaining close. So gaps happen, and then it's so much harder to come back from the gap than having a system that never allows the gap to happen in the first place. And walking daily. So Josh and I totally changed our relationship. Every night for 45 minutes, we go for a walk. We take the monitor with us, and we literally walk in circles around our grass area here, like because we got kids in the house. And
that little cul-de-sac.
We walk in circles for 45
minutes.
I'm deadly serious.
That's awesome.
I'm deadly serious. And we have the monitor with us, and Claire knows how to come down. And sometimes she's standing there by the door being like, Mom, Dad. And we just go in and we give her a cuddle, put her back to bed, and we go walk again. And we have a system that never allows the gap grow. The same if you're in leadership, the same if you're a technician with your leader. Facilitate time to speak with them often so you can stay engaged and the gap doesn't grow, which then it'll actually feel good because you're not having to. When you have this big gap, you're back in, it doesn't feel good, but it's probably good for you and it's good for the other. But you let this gap grow because you don't have a system that facilitates closeness. So you can't get to stage one. So systems facilitate in relationships often gaps not growing. So rapport can remain.
Okay. So step one in terms of developing these things that are going to make us better and grow is to really choose courage before confidence, I should say, right? So confidence would be great if we have it, but don't get hung up there. Choose courage, do hard things, step into that gap. Step two, in terms of doing that, and I can imagine that it is going to take courage to do this, is choose the better phases or choose the better stages of things, meaning like choose the things that are hard, but are wins for you and for other people. They may not feel great, but they are good for you and they're good for others in the direction of getting to a place where they actually do feel great and they are good for you and good for others. So if we start developing our way through this, where does that leave us on step three?
It leads us to just being mindful of the questions you ask yourself. We all have a primary question. Typically within a conversation, if I'm in a conversation with a person for an hour, I can identify what their primary question is. And the primary question ends up shaping the heck out of your life. Mine used to be, how can I prove I am enough? Like it was running around in my head. And only when someone helped me identify what it was, did I realize how omnipresent that was in my life and how much it shaped my behavior. And what that presupposes is that I am not enough. You want to ask yourself an empowering question that presupposes more of what you're looking for. So now what I ask myself is, how can I create even more calm and ease in my life right now? That's going to make me systematize things so I can have calm and ease long term. But how could I create even more calm and ease in my life right now? Even more presupposes I already have it. So what is a question you're asking yourself? So like, if you change your question, you change your focus. And if you change your focus, you'll change your results.
Let me give you an example here, right? So, like, imposter syndrome is a real thing, and it's a real thing no matter what level you're at. I don't care if you're a technician, you're a business owner.
For
You
sure.
look at people like Jeff Bezos and you say, there's no way that guy could possibly ever doubt a decision that I guarantee you he does, right? And you driving in a truck right now to your next call, you might think you're the only person who's out there feeling like a failure. You sure are not. Imposter syndrome is real. So one of those questions that we might ask ourselves might be along the lines, how long before they figure this out? Like, how long before people figure out that I'm fake, that I'm a fraud? So how would you take that and reframe it in a way for us, Laura?
That's a popular one. You first want to identify, what do you want more of? So how can I appreciate even more all that I have in my life? Or how can I be even more committed to my greatness today? It's very personal, but I had someone that I just did with a really high level leader in our organization, and he's become a better leader as a result of it. He asks himself now, how can I create even more joy, laughter, and peace in my life right now? So it just totally, and you have to affirm that. You have to affirm that often to get rid of what Brian alluded to earlier, that stupid program that's been so long ingrained in your head. So what is something you find yourself asking yourself often? Is it, how can I not get caught out? Or a lot of people say, like, I just don't have the time. So you're constantly like, how am I going to get, or something people ask a lot is, how can I get all this done? Or how could I meet that goal? Your tone and even how you're saying it to yourself presupposes that you can't. And it's a very disempowering question. So how can you ask yourself a more empowering question that presupposes the thing is already there? How can I make even more money this month? How can I create an even more powerful presence when I walk into this home? Or how can I show up with even more happiness and laughter today? Or how can I lead my team even better this week? It will start biasing your brain, your reticular activating system, to start looking for proof of that thing versus the opposite. If you buy a red car, you start seeing bloody red cars everywhere. There's no more red cars. It's just you've biased your brain to look for what you're asking of it. If you're constantly asking of it, how can I possibly have enough time? You're going to find all the ways that you don't. How can I prove I am enough? You're going to find all the ways that you're not. How can my boss is an ass? You're going to find all the ways that he is. My wife is annoying. You're going to find all the ways that she is. But if you can presuppose an alternative that is more empowering, you will start seeing those things too. I don't encourage you to say something that's so far away from your reality that you don't believe it, but something that feels good to say. Like you experience almost good feelings in your body when you do say it.
I noticed, Laura, that a lot of the questions you were reframing were action oriented.
Yes.
Like, how can I do this? Or how can I be this? Or what can I do to make this? Like, they're action oriented, which kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier in terms of like, take action, like be action oriented, as opposed to what I proposed as like an imposter syndrome question where you would say, how long before somebody finds out that I'm a fake? Like, that's very at me as opposed to what I can be for others.
For sure. The first thing that came to my head when you asked me the second time was, how can I appreciate all the things that are true about me? How can I appreciate all the good about me? And I have some people, like some leaders who are tough. You would not believe they have this amount of self-doubt. I have them write one thing at the end of the day that they appreciate about themselves. And then they start to eventually chip away at their shitty self-image. Because every day they're writing one thing that they appreciate about themselves sincerely. And that, as you can imagine, does not just trickle into that one area you start to appreciate about yourself. You bias your mind to start seeing what's true in other areas.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you've come across individuals, and I'm sure you work with men and women, do you find that men or women lean more one direction or the other in their primary question, or is that fairly universal?
Yeah, no, which I find fascinating. Not necessarily at all. Not enough underlies most people.
Yeah.
But you could have just another question that could be holding you back. Like a lot of people feel like they don't have enough time. Like that's a limiting belief, that if you don't cut, you'll never have you'll be 50 years from now still desiring to do a thing and never do the thing. It's a limiting belief. So I would encourage you to not just put yourself around people that call out your limiting beliefs, but start being an expert at calling out your own and identifying your own, and start asking yourself, is this true? Is this true? And when you ask yourself, is this true? You'll start to, or is this absolutely true? And when you say, is this absolutely true? You'll often be like, well, no, not absolutely true. And then you start to remove its power sum, which allows your brain receptive to a possible new truth.
Yeah. And as you've coached people through this, what's like a great way to identify the primary question? Because it's, for some people, I think, well, that's just me, or that's just who I was taught. That's just what my dad said, or like all these things. And, I think, well, in my opinion, I think Satan has a very good way of hiding truth by covering it up with confusion or obscuring it through other means, in the terms of like not being able to actually see what is in front of you in terms of those limiting beliefs or those self-doubts, or even just the lies that we believe, and really not even being able to identify this is the primary question, because we keep framing it in 100 different ways. And they may all sound the same, but if you're not self-aware, which unfortunately a lot of us are still struggling in that area, it can be very difficult without somebody such as yourself or an accountability partner or something like that to really draw it out. So if you would give us like one or two things to really say, this is where we can focus on even beginning to uncover the primary question, what would you say?
For sure. A few ways we could go about this. And this is going to require you either potentially being okay with hearing things about yourself that you don't necessarily like, or allowing a loved one speak truth to you. But you could ask a person, what is something that could be like a limiting phrase or a more negative phrase that I tend to say a lot? You could ask that of a person. You could ask that of yourself. Something that really, really helps me get the heck out of my own way if I know I'm being riddled with unconducive thoughts. Like if I'm stressed out of my mind, I often remind myself that there's people in this world that have more responsibilities than me. My thoughts are just not that conducive right now. I need to figure out what the heck I'm saying to myself. And sometimes it's difficult to have that awareness. So what I do, and I coach a lot of people to do it, is sometimes people like to just get a piece of paper and a pen and they just write. It's quite helpful when you wake up first thing in the morning to just write before you allow like the inputs of the day to get in your way. You start to get an idea as to what's going on in your subconscious, and only then can you start to manipulate it. Or this helps me even more because I have ADHD and I don't like to sit still, is I get out and I walk and I pull up ChatGPT and I literally just say stream of consciousness, all the stuff that's on my mind. And then I say something and I'm like, well, that's a goofy thought. That's not empowering me at all. No wonder I'm stressed out. So sometimes just saying it to ChatGPT, I put up I do the talk to text, and then I hit send, and it like interprets a whole host of you. You could also say like, hey, tell me what's potentially limiting about some of the stuff that's going on in my brain right now. And it'll tell it to you. You could get a coach from bloody ChatGPT. Yes, somebody that knows you might ask you more thought-provoking questions, but honestly, if you're a coach, you'd want to become very bloody good, because ChatGPT is bomb.
And somebody sent me a reel, I think it was today actually, which is funny.
Yeah.
Of just one of these new robots,
Yeah.
It's just a full like white and gray robot walking down like a grassy hill and just kind of stumbling all over the place drunk. And it says Chat GPT after an hour-long conversation with me.
Yeah, you just worn them out.
Yeah. Think about that. Yeah.
For sure. But it can be wildly conducive, because then you dump, and then you can start saying, okay, what would be possible truthful alternatives that I could start affirming to myself with more intention over these next few days. And you'll start to see your stress go down, your self-talk go up, your possibilities, your hope for life increase. So that would be a way. Getting aware of your subconscious thoughts. If you like to just walk, or if you're driving to a call, you can just freaking talk to yourself out loud. Sometimes record yourself so you can listen back to it later. And other things that you could say that are helpful while going to a call. I have a hard time sometimes with affirmations. I think they can seem a bit woo-woo and like you're lying to yourself. But if you can say, like I call them incantations, like I am a badass closer, and you say that and it feels relatively neutral in your body. But if you say, I am a badass closer, I am a badass closer, and you're emphasizing different words, you start to experience the change in your body, and you'll change your energy, and you'll end up entering that home with a different kind of feel. So just like these primary questions, you can also have primary statements that you say to yourself on a more consistent basis. But I encourage you not to say them like, I am powerful. It's like, well, shit. No, you're not. How, like that's the crappiest way to say that statement. You've got to have a bit more conviction. So I am powerful, or I am powerful, or I am a closing machine. I am a closing machine. Saying it in ways that that facilitate an emotional change, because your emotions dictate your thoughts, and your thoughts control your actions. And if you have crappy emotions, you'll have crappy thoughts. And if you have crappy thoughts, your actions won't be that compelling, and you won't close your sales, or you won't, flip to the technician, or you won't ask your boss for a raise, or you won't have that challenging conversation with your wife.
Oh, easy on the raise talk over there.
Yeah.
Right? We got people listening.
Yeah.
Well, we got to speed along here, Laura,
Yes.
as much as I'd like to hang out there.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the fourth one.
Yes. So this is see things as they are. So a sign of a good leader, and whether you're leading your family, your team, yourself, you don't want to see things necessarily better than they are. You don't want to see things worse than they are. You just want to see things as they are. We grow when we stop exaggerating or minimizing and start seeing reality clearly. So you can't lead yourself or anyone else if you're lying about where you are. So yes, I believe in optimism for sure, but I also believe in the bloody truth. So I don't want you to see things for worse than they are. I don't want you to see things for better than they are. I want you to be able to have the capacity to see things as they are. Yes, you can choose to go into a call saying you're going to close this call, even though the odds may or may not be with you. That's conducive. That's strategic. But it's also strategic to be able to identify what's true from what's not, because only with truth, with facts, with your actual reality, can you make true change. Because then you're operating with what's true versus what you perhaps would like to be true. And if you lie to yourself about what is perhaps true that isn't, you may never attain what you're actually going after, because you've never admitted what your current reality is. And when we admit our current reality, it mightn't sound good or feel good, but it does give us the opportunity of a happier alternative.
How do you balance that, reality's terms, so to speak, or the look for the truth with what we want really in our salespeople and everybody, installers, and at every level of the organization and ourselves, is that really, really unrealistic expectation of success?
Good question. I think when this is strategic when you when you use it during a strategic session. So I want you to go into calls with this assumption of success, but I also think it's conducive, and I've seen this with hundreds and hundreds of folk, the ability at the end of the day, when you're not in the arena, to be able to self-reflect. And this allows you to accurately self-reflect. Because if you ongoingly tell yourself you're brilliant, but your closing percentage isn't reflecting that, it is more helpful to be real about your current reality, so you can identify what can make you amazing. Yes, your self-talk going into a call should be, I'm amazing, I'm a badass, I'm going to get this no matter what. Conducive, strategic. But also the ability to accurately self-reflect is also very strategic. It's not very strategic to lie in bed and you've bunked all your calls telling yourself you're a badass closer. It would be way more strategic to say, here's what I did do well, here's what I could have done better, and here's what's going to change on my next call.
Now, Laura, I've come across people who seem to be, this might be harsh, but disconnected from reality, at least the reality of their results. And, they think their results are like just the bee's knees, and everybody else is like, are we looking at the same thing? Because it sure isn't. And like, there's a lot of spinning and a lot of, although I'm not sure they think they're spinning. Like, I think, there's just a lot of, just, difference of perspective, perhaps is a polite way of saying it.
Nate and I are probably picturing some of the same faces over the years.
And it's like,
what do you think you did last year, bro?
I don't know how to necessarily like get on the same page with those people sometimes, because there's just, it's like they're living in a different alternate reality. We're talking about the same thing, like at least physically, these are the things that occurred, but our perspectives are wildly different.
I have a thing too where even when somebody's underperforming, I don't really see that person. Now, this is a good thing and this is a bad thing. Logan Altman, an electrician that I trained that's at Nate's shop, who's the number one producing tech in the history of Mr. Sparky nationwide. Still the only one to do 3 million in revenue in a year. He was on Tommy's show with me because we did like a sales management episode, and Tommy said, "What's the best thing about working with Brian?" And he said, "Man, he's always pushing you. He expects more. He sees things in me that I don't see in myself." And he said, "What's the worst thing about working with Brian?" Well, the exact same thing, because it is never good enough, right? And I think that in a way, I see a version of people that's much more than what they currently are. So I'm able to celebrate, but very short lived. And then I want to see what you're going to do next. Do those people, because a couple of the people I just saw in my head that are like that, they're good people. They're not like dishonest people, but they do have this theory of their performance that it's so much more than it is. Is there something to it, you think, where they see the next version of themselves while they're talking about themselves? And it's like, my potential is what I'm measuring myself by, not my current results.
I don't. When I see a person that does that, I feel really sad for them. They know. I do believe they know, and they don't want to experience the pain of their current reality and their current results, and because of that, they'll stay stuck. I really try and hire. One of our core values is extreme ownership. Jocko stuff. If a person and even I would encourage this amid your friendships, like if you're surrounding yourself with people who are unable to admit hard truths to themselves, I would say you can empathize with them, but it's not a conducive trait. How I've helped some people crack it, and it can be hard, is call them out via the lens of compassion, but also with, if you do it because you sincerely love them and want to help them, you can get them through it by saying, if you continue to go down this path of not admitting what your current reality actually is, not what you'd like it to be, but what it actually is, you're therefore not going to change it. What will your life be 10, 15, 20, 25 years from now? And force them to experience the pain of not changing. Sometimes that can be enough to get them to change, but they will not like you saying that. But if you care about a person enough, almost every time I've done that, it's worked. It's caused uproar, but it's worked, and they've come around. You've got to have them experience the pain of what not changing is going to cause for their life. But usually usually those same people who are like uberly confident and don't admit their current reality, they have a lot of self-esteem crap going on. And I feel really sad for those people. There's something very empowering about admitting that you suck at a thing and doing the thing anyway and asking for feedback so you can get better faster. Otherwise, you are your only inaccurate coach.
It's tough though when you've built your personality around this one thing, and especially if you get on a team like that of Nate's team in Lancaster, my team here in Phoenix, your team with Clover.
Yeah.
And you have built this version of yourself that you're just a rock star, and then you get around people who are actually rock stars, and you're like, it's got to be difficult, man, to dismantle that version of you. I
guarantee you. Yeah, but the pain that they must be living in every single day when they see objectively that they're not. But like there was this, I spoke to the guy who owns the DEXA office. And for anyone listening that doesn't know a DEXA scan, he has people that calls into him that they've done all sorts of scans. And DEXA is apparently the most accurate on the market. And they give out that their scan is a load of crap, but all scans are. Like, it's difficult to admit a truth to yourself. It really is. But going about life wrapped up in a lie is way more difficult. And if you have kids, it's a horrible thing to model to your kids. Self-honesty is a freaking superpower. And one of the biggest things that inspires trust if you're a leader is vulnerability. Admitting that you're not freaking the bee's knees in the cat's pajamas sometimes. That's life, that's human. And when you can admit your vulnerabilities to your team, you'll connect with them in a far deeper way and they'll trust you more.
Yeah, that reminds me of Lieutenant Colonel Scott Mann, who we had on a couple weeks ago, talking about being generous with your scars.
Yeah.
And he used that.
Laura
phrase.
is who we met him through.
Yeah.
Yeah, he talks about being generous with your scars, and I used that in a leadership training I gave the other month, and I think it's very powerful in terms of sharing the mistakes, the hurts, the pain that has been part of your story in a way that makes you not only vulnerable, but also approachable
for sure
to other people, right? And regardless of whether you're in a leadership quote unquote titled position or not, you are a human. And there are many other humans that would love to know that they are not alone in terms of how you got there and how they could too.
100%. 100%. And like to what Brian said at the very start about like self-doubt and his desire to talk about it on this, the most successful people still have self-doubt. They just choose to do the thing anyway. They still do. It never goes. They just choose to do the thing anyway. And because of that, they're less gripped by it. But they still have it.
Yeah, the voice is, because you stop listening to it, the voice gets quieter and quieter, but it never goes away.
No. So to be mindful of time, the sixth one is build self-respect through hard choices. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you build trust. Every time you do the hard thing because your future self is worth it, you build self-respect. That's a power no one can take from you. So a line I like to say is self-respect is the silent engine behind a powerful life. And I believe the most underrated form of self-respect, of achieving self-respect, is sticking with the promises that you make with yourself. And that I know is hard. That's an ongoing practice. At least it is for me. Something that is there's a few ways that have helped me do that. But I encourage you, if you want to build self-respect and you want to build self-worth, the quickest, most potent way of doing so is keeping the promises you make to yourself. And maybe you're bad at setting goals. Okay, cool. Identify that, own that, and perhaps go about setting goals in a more healthier, optimal way. But keeping the promises you make to yourself there's the data shows it. I have experienced it both in myself and with people that are in the Clover world. It is the quickest way to build self-confidence, to build self-assurance, and to build self-respect. And people say to me, I've heard people say, I don't think they respect me. They don't respect you because you don't respect yourself. When you learn to start respecting yourself, you start to exude that, and others will respect you, will have an easier time respecting you.
Quick recap before we move on. I'm going to go through. Number 1, take courage before confidence. Number 2, pick the best stage. Number 3, identify your primary question. Number 4, see things as they are. We skipped 5, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry, we did. 5 is find a space where you're seen but never judged. And this alludes to...
Where's that space? I can't even find that space in my head.
Yeah. And I guess you put yourself around people that will hold you to a high standard, and they'll speak a harsh truth to you sometimes, but not because they're being an ASS. It's because they genuinely see more for you. Like Brian, you see for your people, you want more for them, so you're willing to speak hard truths. If you're putting yourself around people that are not able to speak hard truths to you, you are allowing yourself to operate in a cage. Ask people to speak hard truths to you. Now, I also say to you, if you're asking people to speak a hard truth to you, only ask it from somebody who has the results that you're looking for. So if you're a comfort consultant and you're asking for advice from a comfort consultant, ask for it either a peer that's really operating at a high level with you, but ideally one that's better than you. Only take advice from people who are in the arena with you or have the result in that realm that you're looking to have that result too. So not all marriages work, but I don't take marriage advice from a divorced person. And you will hear people, giving out perhaps about your spouse, but they're not married, or you'll hear a person saying that this person's crap at sales and they've never sold a day in their life. So only take advice from a person who has the result in that area that you're looking for, and then invite honesty. And there are ways to facilitate, to systematize having that. So in Clover, we have, for technicians, we have round tables where other technicians pour into one another. We have masterminds where we do twice a year, where people come and pour into one another. In the 3 Promises program, I am that person where people tell me they never feel judged. And it's not that, perhaps I mightn't always agree with their choices, but I genuinely want more for them in that moment, so that I'll push them to a higher standard. So the message here is, ask people for input on an area you're trying to become better at, only if they have the result in that area that you're looking for, and ask them to speak harsh truths to you. Ask them to assess your performance. Ask them for a possible alternative that could facilitate you being better in this area. It does not mean you have to take it, but at least you gave yourself the learning opportunity. If I had to agree with every chapter in every book, I'd never read again. If I had to agree with everything a coach told me, I'd never be coached again. If you have to agree with everything I've said in this podcast, you'd probably never want to listen to me again. But if you took one thing that made your life better, that's worth it. The same is true with a book. The same is true with your leader. You might not agree with everything they said, but perhaps there's one thing you could learn. So being open-minded to ways that you can operate at a high standard because you put yourself around people that you trust enough to speak the truth into you is wildly important. So who are those people for you? Could you facilitate that by joining a mastermind, by asking a leader of yours to facilitate some sort of a virtual mastermind for you? How could you put yourself around people that are willing to hold you to a high standard? It will change the game and speak truth to you in a loving way, not because they want to be an ass, but because they genuinely see more for you. That is wildly. You get community, you get truth, you get growth, you get coaching. It's such an underrated way of facilitating you, fast pacing, getting to where you want to be faster. So that was 5.
Several times now you've mentioned being in the arena.
Mm.
Is that hearkening back to Theodore Roosevelt's
Yeah,
quote?
I love that quote.
You're making me want to read it really badly.
And I just get so peed off when people say advice and they are so unqualified to speak to that reality.
There's a meme culture of that right now.
It drives me crazy.
It's people who have never done anything at all are given advice based on little quote clips and stuff. And it's like,
it's so annoying. Sometimes
those memes are helpful and stuff, but it's like until you've walked through and lived through some of these things that there's no substance behind just an empty quote. It's frustrating.
Yeah. It's frustrating. And it also, I think, deters so many people from trying a thing. They allow the judgments of a person who does not have the life that they want stop them from going about having the life that they want.
Mm.
They're not in the freaking arena you want to be in. Stop listening to them. They'll hold you so back.
Well, real quick, Laura, I did have a question before you wrap up. You talk a lot about, seeking advice or counsel, or in many ways, just hard truths, right? From people. And I don't know if you're intentionally setting up these keys or these concepts in a progressive order. Do you believe that it's a prerequisite to have self-respect before you are courageous enough or open enough to ask for feedback, hard truths into your life? Meaning, like, can I receive hard truths if I am low self-esteem?
Such a good question. That is so good. I would say there's definitely, I would anticipate that there's a correlation between high self-esteem and one's willingness to ask for hard truths. I would say that I'd say there's a correlation there, but I would like to potentially reframe it for people. I think it's an act of self-love if you choose to seek good advice.
There's also choose someone you can hear a hard truth from.
For sure.
Like, not everybody in my life is permitted to give me criticism because, well, there are people I just won't take it from. And then there are people who aren't going to deliver it in a way that doesn't make me defensive or shut down.
Right.
So all of us at all times who aspire to be in the slightest leadership role ever should be working on how we deliver hard truths to people that do not break them.
Yeah.
Because the more wounded a person is, the more that hard truth can just finish them off. And if you really want to shut someone down, do that.
100.
So we all need to be working on the delivery, but then find someone that and you probably have someone in mind that you can be vulnerable with and who will smack you upside the head in your vulnerability, but it will not feel like a smack. It will feel like a hug. Exactly. And you'll be on your way with good advice.
That is one of the things, that's one of my favorite things to really do.
Dude, I'm not trying to blow smoke because you're the guest, but that is literally what I feel like your masterminds are. Oddly, it's even people that probably aren't that good at it in person outside of there. But the way you guys facilitate this mastermind, I told the story, I don't remember when it was or what episode, but I told the story to Nate on an intro of how I'm sitting in this room at the first mastermind we went to. And I didn't want to be vulnerable about the things I'm struggling with, because as I walk in the door, like 8 people came up to me like, "You're the Waste No Day guy." And I'm like, oh, I can't have weaknesses now. I can't be struggling with like getting calls on the board. But by the time we did that first chair exercise and we asked each other scripted questions, that was long gone, man. And it was just wide open and vulnerable, and everybody's just there were people way above me, and then people kind of just getting started, and everybody's working on the same things. And even probably the most successful person in the room, Paul Kelly, who's your father-in-law,
Yeah.
would just stop and listen and take notes no matter who's talking. And I'm just like, this is something special. We need more of them.
Yeah, it's something I'm really proud of. Anyone, if you have an ability to create psychological safety, a person can evolve from there. If they don't feel safe, they won't evolve. I do believe we do that really, really well. We all have the opportunity to facilitate that, though, for our spouses, for the people that we're leading, our friendships. If we really care to speak a hard truth to a person, you've got to facilitate psychological safety, which, yes, is sometimes being aware of their wounds. So you can speak intelligently when suggesting a possible alternative that would allow them live a more fulfilling life.
Yeah. And if you want a cheat code to doing it before you're good at it, it is leave your kid in the car, as David Sandler would say. Forget about your needs and your ego and think, how can I deliver this in a way that's good for them, because what I'm delivering is good for them, and leave our own needs, wants, and desires out of it.
Yeah.
Typically, if you can start on that foot and have that little conversation with yourself, it goes a lot better.
For sure.
Than if you just go in and say, did it again.
Yeah.
I'm going to choke you out.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, Laura, this has been fantastic advice, and you have one more key component to leave us with. Take us home with number 7.
The last thing is success without fulfillment is, I believe, the ultimate failure. So if you're rich but exhausted, or respected but unhappy, you've missed the mark. True growth, I believe, shows up when all 3 areas are in motion. Personally, you like who you're becoming. Professionally, your work and leadership are leveling up. Financially, your money reflects your effort and your value. So when you grow in all 3 areas at once, you don't just experience satisfaction, you experience fulfillment. And that's the feeling that over all the data, over the hundreds of leaders I've seen, but like the data, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands, it's fulfillment that allows you get to the end of your life and experience just shit, that was a life worth living. But it also allows you to go about to achieve at a faster pace when you're experiencing fulfillment, because fulfillment is one of the biggest variables that facilitate well-being. So how can you evolve personally, professionally, and financially? The 7 secrets I shared with you today are some of the ways you go about doing that. I don't encourage you to take them all, but take one if you take one of these, the one that you believe hit you most in the heart, consider it, talk to ChatGPT about it, write about it, talk to a trusted friend about it, and chew on it and see how it can potentially change your life. And when you incorporate it, you will see shifts personally, professionally, and financially. Thank you guys for having me. This was fun.
Let's finish on the man in the arena.
Let's do it.
But before we do, awesome, great time, Laura. Every conversation I have with you and Josh is just phenomenal. I really enjoy them. But man, you always first half a little shaky with the hands.
I am I? It's funny.
Not anymore, just in the beginning. It's always funny because I'm like, we'll talk in your kitchen and there's none of that. But as soon as we get you on this iPad screen, I really appreciate your time, the effort you put into this, and taking us in a direction that is much better than what I wanted to do. So,
and Laura, I appreciate that, Brian. As we wrap things up, did want to give you an opportunity. You've spoken a lot about masterminds and about the things that you're doing with Clover. You know, there's probably some people who are thinking, well, I sure don't have those types of people in my life, but it would be freaking awesome if I did.
Yeah.
Right. What are you doing with Clover that people, our listeners specifically, could look to facilitate some of these areas of growth?
Yeah, good question. So we have 3 main programs. The Contractor Catapult program is our best practice program. It's literally everything that's allowed us grow Parker and Sons, but now the 5 companies that are doing over 100 mil, and they didn't start there. To what Nath said, like some of the companies that we started with came in at like 1.5, and now they're like 25 mil. So it's a best practice group that supports the entire organization. That's Contractor Catapult. Super actionable, high accountability. You have your very own success manager, and your success managers are compensated when they help you hit revenue and profit goal. That's that program. Wildly proud of it, and it's evolving week by week. The second program is our mastermind program, where you were an owner and an operator an owner and operator, and either your spouse or an implementer. If you're a visionary, you might want to bring your implementer with you, that spends 3 days with us over a weekend, where we bring in an award-winning chef, fun cocktails, entertainment, and we bring in 15 all-star contractors that pour into you over the course of one weekend, and then you end up pouring into them. What results is just a tremendous amount of growth, because you get 15 contractors in one room that allow you get through and push through your biggest challenges. It's an event Brian has been to many times. They fill up fast. We sometimes do have openings. We have a few openings right now for our one in October. So if you're interested, DM me, go on our website. We can always have that conversation. Wild growth comes out of them. It's one of the most fulfilling parts of what we do. The last thing is our Tree Promises program. This is for if you are an owner and you've leaders that you want to grow, you've technicians that you want to grow personally, professionally, and financially. The whole concept is they start using your business as a vehicle to expand personally, professionally, and financially. When your vehicle can allow them expand in each of those three areas, they never want to leave. And you never want them to leave, because they're so bloody engaged and performing in a high way. It's a 90-day program, and the results are profound. One of the most proudest things I think I've ever done in my career. That's the Three Promises program mastermind. I'm so wildly proud of it. It's intimate. It's 3 days long. Contractor Catapult is ongoing best practice program. So there's a whole host of ways that we lean in and support the industry, not just because we know it works, but because we're doing it and figuring it out with you, and we release it to you when we've identified the nuances of what does work. That's what we do. It's you'll find us if you go to growwithclover.com. My name's Laura. My husband, who's building this with me, is Josh. We have an incredible team. We care about getting you actual results. We care about changing your bottom line. We care about you having a vehicle that facilitates you having a good life, whether that's being a technician, a leader, an owner, a manager. It's a vehicle. It's a vehicle for you to live your life. It doesn't have to become your life, but it's a vehicle to allow you live a great life.
You can hear how genuine and caring Laura is, and smart. Josh, the exact same way. There's some weird magic that happens at these masterminds. That's the reason we keep going back, and we'll continue to go back. I would say for me, the place to start is the mastermind rather than any of the other things, because when you leave there, you will feel like you know this team, both Josh, Laura, and their team. And then you will have so many friends at your level, below your level, above your level, that you come out of there in text groups with, and with relationships, and they'll be alongside you, pushing you along the way. And majority of them are already members of their programs. So I would start there. I don't know when this episode's going to air. I'm thinking it's should be plenty of time before October. Well, we'll make sure, but get in there. If there are any spots left, it would be well worth your time. And I mean, the money's like a joke compared to what you're going to come out of there but the time. So where's the October one?
Next one's in Nashville.
Oh, that was a good time.
Yeah.
I'll take the Nashville over the New Orleans any day.
I have a friend.
That was
Nashville
way better
too.
for me. Yeah. I love the Nashville. That was my first time there.
I don't know where we're going to be next year. We changed. People tend to continue to come back year over year. So we try to change location.
What was the crazy one Amelia and Bridie were talking about at the end? Oh, it was I don't remember. They were talking about doing one, and wouldn't it be cool if it was so-and-so? I don't remember where it was. Never mind. Yeah. Forget about me. Ignore me, Lord.
There's a whole host of options. But yeah, they're unique each time, because that is when you're in an environment that's super unique, people get excited. And when you're in an excited state of mind, you've better energy, you learn better, you're more open to receiving and giving. And it's a wild weekend in the best kind of way.
Well, this has been fantastic, Laura, and you've certainly delivered on giving our audience much to think about. Taking courage before confidence, picking the best stage, identifying your primary question, seeing things as they really are, finding space where you're seen and not judged, building self-respect, and finding success with fulfillment. This has been so good, Laura. We appreciate you taking the time with us. Brian's going to take us out on the quote, but we appreciate you spending some time with our audience today.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, like Nate, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold, timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Theodore Roosevelt, 1910.
That's a great place to leave it, Brian, as we continue to challenge you to wake up each and every morning and waste no day.